What do you say when your hero almost dies, and you're there to witness it? Now imagine it's Anthony Joshua, Olympic gold medalist, two-time heavyweight world champion, the man millions look up to, not just for his fists, but for his spirit. And now, he's shirtless, bloody, and barely conscious, trapped in a wrecked SUV on a burning hot Nigerian highway. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. He doesn't know where he is. There's glass everywhere. Two people are dead, and his younger brother Jacob, screaming his name, crying in panic. His father Robert, in tears. Something happened that morning that shattered more than metal. It shook the very core of a family and a nation. But the most haunting part? The accident wasn't supposed to happen. Not that day, not that route, not that way. And yet, it did. So now we ask, why? Build up, the calm before the catastrophe. Let's rewind the clock. Just 24 hours earlier, Anthony Joshua was all smiles. He had just wrapped up a private charity event in Lagos. Fans, photos, press. The usual. But there was one detail that stuck out. He didn't bring his usual UK entourage. No PR rep, no trainer. Just him, his brother Jacob, a close friend, and a small Nigerian security detail. Why? That's our first mystery. AJ, known for his meticulous planning, had apparently decided to go low-key this time. A personal trip away from the cameras. But you don't just go low-key when you're Anthony Joshua. You're followed, filmed, watched. And on the morning of the crash, he was definitely being watched. Footage that shocked the internet. We've all seen it by now, haven't we? That viral clip. Blurry, shaky, shot on a mobile phone. You can hear the crowd murmuring, gasping. A Lexus SUV, crumpled like a soda can. Windshield blown out. Metal twisted. And in the passenger seat, there he is. Anthony Joshua. No shirt. Covered in sweat. Scratches across his chest. Dazed, confused. He doesn't move much. Just stares ahead. Someone in the crowd says, "Is that Anthony Joshua? Oh my God, it's really him." Another, "Is he dead?" No, he wasn't. But two others were. Two lives gone. In an instant. A family in crisis. The moment Jacob Joshua arrived at the scene, everything changed. Witnesses describe it vividly. He leapt out of his car, sprinting, pushing through onlookers. "Where's my brother? Where is he?" Then the silence. Then the scream. Jacob found him in the back seat, blood on his arm, slumped over. Barely conscious. A first responder was trying to talk to him, but AJ wasn't responding. Jacob collapsed to his knees. That's when Robert Joshua, Anthony's father, was contacted by phone. He didn't speak for a full minute after hearing the news. And then he wept. Can you blame him? What father wouldn't, hearing his son, the pride of a nation, had been in a car crash that killed two? Why it hits harder than you think. This isn't just another celebrity accident. This is Anthony Joshua, a man who pulled himself out of the streets of Watford, a man who transformed from a troubled youth to a world champion, a man who became a symbol, not just for Nigerians, but for underdogs across the globe. He was invincible. At least, that's what we thought. But now, lying broken and dazed in a hot SUV surrounded by death. Suddenly, he's not invincible. He's human. The road that ruins lives. Let's talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Sounds ordinary, doesn't it? It's not. It's notorious. Known as one of the most dangerous roads in Nigeria, this stretch has claimed thousands of lives over the years. Overtaking trucks, potholes the size of craters, reckless drivers, broken down lorries parked carelessly on the shoulder. And now, it has Anthony Joshua's blood on it. Why was he even on that road? Why did no one advise him to take a different route? His security team, supposed to be elite, was following behind, not in front. That split-second difference may have cost lives. And maybe, just maybe, it changed the course of Anthony Joshua's career forever. The timing raises questions. Here's what makes it even more eerie. Joshua was rumored to be in final talks for a comeback fight. The date? Just weeks away. And now, in 1 second, that momentum is gone. Medical clearance? Uncertain. Mental state? Broken. Promoters are panicking. Sponsors are backing off. And his fans? They're confused, devastated, scared. And somewhere in all this, very real questions are bubbling up. Who was driving the SUV? Why were they speeding? What happened in the minutes before impact? And is this just a tragic accident? or something far more sinister? AJ's mysterious moments before impact. We've spoken to someone who was in AJ's circle that day. For safety, we'll call him Daniel. Daniel says AJ was jumpy that morning, restless, not himself. He apparently received a message that upset him before getting in the car. Was it about a business deal? A personal issue? We don't know yet. But Daniel says, and I quote, he wasn't himself. Something was off. I've seen him nervous before a fight, but never like that. And then came the crash. A nation holds its breath. Across Nigeria and the world, millions waited for updates. Rumors spread like wildfire. He's dead. He lost a leg. He's in a coma. They switched him out and are hiding the truth. All false, but believable. That's how intense the moment was. Eventually, a video surfaced of AJ in a different car, this time sitting upright, speaking softly with officials. But what caught people off guard? His face. It wasn't just pain. It was grief. The unanswered whisper. Sources close to the hospital reveal that when AJ regained full consciousness, he whispered something. Just one sentence. The nurse didn't catch it all, but what she did hear was chilling. I saw him. That's it. I saw him. Who was him? No one knows. Not yet. But some believe AJ had a near-death experience. Others say he was referring to someone from his past, someone he thought was dead. We don't know. But one thing's for sure. What came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What if Anthony Joshua knew something was going to happen, but never said a word? What if the signs were there? Subtle, strange, even chilling, but everyone missed them? Because in the 24 hours leading up to that fatal crash, something wasn't right. And now, looking back, it feels like destiny was whispering in his ear the whole time. But no one, not his brother, not his father, not even his bodyguards, picked up on it. Until it was too late. Way too late. The mysterious itinerary. Let's start with something simple, his travel plans. Joshua had flown into Lagos under the radar. No fanfare. No press. No media outlets tipped off. That alone was odd. This is a man who can't walk down a street in Nigeria without being swarmed. Yet somehow, his arrival was quiet. Secretive. Intentional. And here's the kicker. Even people within his own team didn't know he was going. One promoter source told us, AJ was supposed to be in London. He had meetings, sponsor appearances, media calls. Then suddenly, poof, he's in Lagos. No heads up. So why the secrecy? What was he running toward? Or worse, what was he running from? The luxury hotel that became a prison. He checked into a 5-star hotel in Victoria Island, one he'd stayed at before. On the outside, everything looked normal. But hotel staff told a different story. One cleaner said, he kept the curtains closed all day, didn't want housekeeping, barely left the room. And when he did leave, he wore sunglasses and a cap, even indoors. Anthony Joshua, the man known for his smile, his warmth, his accessibility, was now silent, cold, withdrawn, a different person. One staff member overheard him on the phone late at night, pacing the hallway barefoot. She swears she heard him say, if they knew I was here, they'd try to stop me. Who was he talking about? Who didn't want him there? And more importantly, what was he planning to do? The breakfast that turned into a warning. The next morning, he sat alone at the hotel restaurant around 7:15 a.m. No entourage, no media, just black coffee and plantains. A waiter approached him, nervously. Sir Joshua, he said politely. Are you all right? You look. He didn't finish the sentence. Joshua looked up, smiled softly, and said, I just needed to feel real for a second. Feel real? The waiter didn't understand at the time. But he does now. Because just 4 hours later, that same man would be pulled from a mangled SUV, covered in blood and dust. A ghost of the man who sat quietly sipping coffee. A strange text message. Sources close to AJ's team confirmed something unsettling. At 8:27 a.m. that morning, Joshua received a text message from an unknown number. He read it, stared at it, didn't respond. Then he deleted it. Not archived, not ignored, deleted. Now here's where it gets weird. AJ has a habit of never deleting texts. Ever. In past interviews, he even joked that he had every message since 2012 saved. So why did this one message make him break his own rule? What did it say? And why did he seem shaken after reading it? No one knows. But one of the security team later told a reporter, whatever he saw in that message, it changed his energy. He stopped talking after that. The switch-up that cost lives. Originally, AJ wasn't even supposed to take that SUV. His team had two options, the Lexus SUV and a private escort van. Standard procedure said he'd ride in the van. More secure, tinted, bulletproof, reinforced. But at the last minute, he chose the Lexus. No explanation. No debate. Just, I'll take this one. Jacob, his younger brother, hesitated. You sure? AJ nodded. And that decision may have saved his brother's life. Because Jacob rode in the vehicle behind, the one that wasn't touched by the crash. Think about that. A single decision. A switch. One car ahead, one behind. And because of that, two lives were lost in front. Jacob survived behind. Coincidence? Or something more? The goodbye that didn't feel like one. Right before leaving the hotel, Anthony gave the front desk clerk a folded note. Not cash. Not paperwork. A note. She remembers it because he said, "If anything happens today, give this to my brother." She thought it was a joke. But now, she keeps replaying that moment. Because no one has seen that note since. And Jacob, when asked by reporters, said, "I never got any note. I don't know what you're talking about." So where did it go? Was it lost in the wreck? Or was it taken? The unexpected detour. The original destination that morning was a youth outreach program about 30 minutes away. Joshua was meant to speak to kids, train with young athletes, and offer mentorship. That never happened. Instead, the SUV veered off route. No GPS. No explanation. AJ apparently told the driver, "Let's take the long way. I want to see something." What did he want to see? Some say he was headed to a village tied to his ancestry. Others claim he was going to meet someone important. One wild rumor even suggested he was heading to a private meeting with a disgraced former boxing coach. All we know is he never got there. The crash happened at 11:03 a.m., just minutes from a rest stop on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And what's chilling is, the last message AJ sent, at 10:59 a.m., was just 3 words. Almost there now. Almost where? We still don't know. The security guard who disappeared. There was one more person in AJ's convoy that day. A man named Victor. He wasn't in the SUV. He was driving the backup vehicle behind. After the crash, Victor pulled over immediately, helped get AJ out, tried to administer first aid. But within an hour, he was gone. Vanished. His phone is off. His social media is deleted. His family says they haven't seen him. Why would a trained, elite-level guard vanish like that? Unless he saw something he wasn't supposed to. Or someone didn't want him to talk. The deeper you go into that day, the more things stop making sense. And the more terrifying the truth starts to feel. AJ's final words before impact. According to a passenger who miraculously survived the crash, the last thing Anthony said before the collision was this: "Don't stop. Just go." The driver hesitated. There was a truck up ahead, parked badly on the shoulder. And Anthony said it again, louder this time. "Go." Why? What was he running from? What did he see in the distance? Or was he just anxious, panicking, misjudging? None of the surviving passengers can agree. But they all agree on one thing. In that moment, AJ was not himself. Closing beat, something he saw. We end this chapter with a bone-chilling detail. A witness who arrived at the crash scene within minutes said he saw AJ being pulled out of the SUV, barely conscious. Bloodied. Slumped over. But with his eyes wide open. Not blinking. Just staring. Staring at something across the road. Something no one else seemed to see. When they asked what he was looking at, he whispered, "He's still there," and then passed out. No one knows who he is. Not Jacob. Not Robert. Not the hospital staff. But the haunting look on AJ's face, the fear, the recognition, suggests one thing. This crash wasn't just physical. It was personal. And what comes next may prove that Anthony Joshua didn't just survive a tragic accident. He survived something much darker. Have you ever heard silence so loud it felt like it was screaming? That's what survivors say happened in the moment just before the crash. 3 seconds of eerie, unnatural calm. No one spoke. No one moved. Time, according to them, froze. Then came the sound. Steel. Shattering. Screaming. And just like that, the world as Anthony Joshua knew it was gone. This was no ordinary car accident. This was something else entirely. And when you break it down second by second, what emerges isn't just tragedy. It's horror. T-90 seconds. The approach. The Lexus SUV was cruising along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Pavement hot enough to fry skin. Visibility? Crystal clear. There were 5 people in the car. Anthony Joshua, rear passenger side seat. Jacob's friend, rear driver's side. The driver, a close friend in the front passenger seat. A team assistant riding up front to scout traffic. The convoy was tight. Behind them, a trailing SUV holding Jacob Joshua and 2 members of the security team. The driver of AJ's vehicle was going slightly above the speed limit, but nothing crazy, until they began overtaking slower traffic on the left. That's when everything changed, because up ahead was a stationary truck. It was parked badly, tilted, no cones, no hazard lights, just a rusted death trap, waiting like a silent predator. T-minus 30 seconds, the shift in energy. Survivors say Joshua leaned forward. That's rare for him. He usually stays back, chilled, almost meditative. But now, he leaned in, alert, tense. According to the passenger in front, AJ mumbled, "Too fast, too close." The driver didn't reply. Instead, he began overtaking another car. That car swerved slightly, forcing the Lexus to the far edge of the lane. The truck was just seconds away now. AJ's hands gripped the seat in front of him. His jaw clenched. One witness described it as a boxer bracing for the bell. But this wasn't a ring, and there was no referee. T-minus 15 seconds. The overtake that went wrong. The Lexus accelerated. They moved into the overtaking lane to pass a slower Toyota Corolla. But in doing so, they lost alignment. The truck on the roadside was now visible to all of them, parked at an angle, too close to the expressway, practically in the lane. The front passenger, who survived with a shattered collarbone, later told police, "We all saw the truck. We just didn't realize we wouldn't make it." AJ spoke again. "Slow down." The driver hit the brakes. But it was too late. T-minus 5 seconds, the point of no return. There's a term crash experts use. Point of no return. It's the moment where no matter what you do, swerve, brake, pray, you're going to hit something. This was that moment. The Lexus clipped the rear of the Corolla while swerving away from the truck. That sent the SUV spinning, counterclockwise. At 95 kilometers per hour, Anthony Joshua shouted something, but no one can remember the words. A deafening tire screech echoed across the expressway. And then, impact. The crash, metal versus time. The right side of the SUV slammed into the stationary truck. The sound? Witnesses called it a boom that sucked the air from your lungs. The SUV's body caved in instantly. The front passenger seat was crushed. Glass exploded like a shotgun blast. The roof cracked. The airbags deployed, too late for some. AJ's side took the worst of it. He was slammed sideways into the seatbelt, his head striking the window frame. Blood immediately started pouring from a gash on his temple. But he was awake, and that's what makes this even harder to stomach. The first 3 seconds after impact. Silence. Dead, awful silence. The kind that doesn't feel real. Then, groaning, cracking, a cough, and a whisper. "Help." AJ's body was slumped. Jacob's friend in the back wasn't moving. The assistant in the front was slumped over the dashboard. Blood leaking down the center console. The driver was screaming, one leg pinned under the crushed steering column. Anthony tried to speak, but instead he moaned, eyes open, breathing shallow. His hand reached toward the broken door, then fell limp. The second vehicle arrives. Jacob Joshua, in the second vehicle, saw it all. The crash happened just 200 meters ahead of him. He shouted to the driver, "Stop! Stop the car!" The second SUV skidded to a halt. Jacob jumped out, barefoot. He'd kicked off his shoes in panic. He ran through traffic, weaving between honking cars, yelling AJ's name over and over. "Anthony! Anthony!" When he reached the vehicle, he couldn't believe what he saw. Glass. Smoke. Silence. He pulled the rear door open, but it wouldn't budge. A passing driver stopped and helped pry it open. Inside, Jacob saw his brother slumped, his eyes barely open. "You're okay. You're okay. You're gonna be okay." But AJ wasn't responding. And then Jacob noticed something worse. 2 of the passengers weren't breathing. The deaths that shook the family. The team assistant in the front? Gone. Jacob's friend in the back? Also gone. Pronounced dead on the scene. No seatbelts. No second chance. Jacob fell to his knees outside the SUV, crying uncontrollably. A journalist who arrived shortly after said, "I've seen grief. But this wasn't normal grief. This was the kind that makes a grown man collapse in the dirt and scream at God." Paramedics arrived 12 minutes later. They tried to revive the passengers, but it was hopeless. AJ was semi-conscious, but when the medic asked his name, he didn't respond. He just pointed at the sky. Then he whispered, "He's still there." The crowd gathers. Within minutes, word spread. Anthony Joshua. Car crash. 2 dead. People swarmed the scene. Phones out. Cameras rolling. One video, which has since been scrubbed from most platforms, shows AJ shirtless, being lifted from the wreck by 4 men. He's limp. A trail of blood runs from his scalp down his chest. Someone yells, "Make way." He's alive. But the looks on their faces say something else. They didn't believe he'd survive. And for a few terrifying minutes, neither did his brother. The police arrive, and something feels off. When authorities showed up, they immediately began clearing the scene. But something strange happened. One of the officers picked up a backpack from the SUV and walked away. Not to log it, not to hand it over, just walked off. Eyewitnesses caught it on video. When questioned later, the officer claimed he was securing evidence. But the bag was never logged into official evidence reports. What was inside? Why was it taken? And who was that officer? No one has answered those questions. Not yet. The hospital run. Anthony Joshua was loaded into a medical van, no sirens. His head was wrapped in gauze. He was drifting in and out of consciousness. The medic inside asked again, "Do you know where you are?" He blinked, then muttered, "I'm not supposed to be here." Those were his last words before losing consciousness completely. He wouldn't speak again for hours. And when he finally did, it would spark the deepest fear in his family's hearts. But more on that later. The unanswered questions. By now, you're probably thinking, why was the truck parked there? Who was driving the SUV? Why was the police report filed before the autopsy? And what did AJ mean by "he's still there"? You're not alone, because Jacob Joshua is asking the same questions. And what he's found so far is deeply disturbing. But just when the family thought things couldn't get worse, someone leaked footage from inside the SUV, captured moments before the crash. And the audio? Let's just say, it didn't sound like 5 men talking. It sounded like 6. And one of the voices didn't belong to anyone in that car. What happens when a tragedy turns into a spectacle? When a rescue mission is interrupted by people filming with their phones? When paramedics can't reach the dying because hundreds are blocking the road trying to get a selfie? This wasn't just a crash scene. It was a storm of sirens, screams, smoke, and chaos. And in the middle of it all, Anthony Joshua, barely clinging to consciousness, surrounded by strangers who weren't trying to help. They were trying to record his death. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because somewhere in the confusion, something was stolen. And what disappeared could change everything we thought we knew about the crash. The first to arrive, the market woman. Her name was Adama. She sells fruit by the side of the expressway, every day, rain or shine. She heard the crash before she saw it. 2 loud bangs, a low screech, then a deafening silence. Adama ran toward the sound, barefoot, holding her phone in one hand, unsure of what she'd find. What she saw? She still has nightmares about it. There was blood on the road. A man was shouting in English. 2 men were not moving. One man, he was awake, but his face was shaking. That was the boxer. That was the famous one. Adama didn't know his name, but she knew his face. He looked lost, like he didn't know who he was anymore. The video that went viral before the ambulance even arrived. At exactly 11:09 a.m., a video hit TikTok. Blurry, shaky, horrifying. It showed Anthony Joshua slumped sideways in the back of the Lexus. The door was open, glass everywhere. Someone, off-screen, was screaming, "He's alive! He's alive!" But AJ didn't look alive. His eyes were half shut, his head bleeding, his lips barely moving. The caption? AJ in fatal crash, OMG, loudly crying face, pray for him. In the background, you can hear laughter. Laughter. People filming, talking, cheering even, as if this were a movie set. A prank. A dream. But it wasn't. It was real. It was brutal. And it was far from over. Jacob Joshua's arrival. Get away from him. Jacob sprinted from the trailing car. He shoved through the growing crowd, tripping over a fallen motorcyclist who had crashed trying to slow down. By the time Jacob reached his brother, over 50 people were already there, shouting, recording, crying. One man even tried to climb into the wreck to get a closer shot of AJ's face. Jacob exploded. Get away from him. He can't breathe. He started swinging, punching at people, ripping phones from hands. Some ran. Some fought back. One man even yelled, "You think you're the only one who loves him? Let us see. Let us see." See what? A man bleeding to death? This is how twisted it had become. A mysterious woman in a green dress. Multiple eyewitnesses mention her. A woman, mid-30s, wearing a bright green dress. Sunglasses. She wasn't part of the crowd. She didn't scream. She didn't film. She just stood there, silent, staring at AJ. One witness said, she looked like she recognized him, but not like a fan, like an enemy. Someone approached her and asked if she needed help. She didn't answer. Minutes later, she was gone. No one saw where she went. But a street vendor claimed he saw her get into a gray Honda Civic parked nearby and drive off calmly. No license plate. No sticker. No logo. Nothing. Just gone. The stolen phone. AJ's personal phone wasn't found at the scene. He had it earlier that morning. Multiple people saw him texting with it at the hotel. But after the crash? Gone. Vanished. When Jacob asked the officers on site where it was, they shrugged. One said, maybe it was thrown from the car. Except there's no record of it being recovered. And here's the eerie twist. Hours later, AJ's verified WhatsApp account suddenly went offline. Then back online for 2 minutes. During that time, 3 messages were deleted. Who was in control of the phone? And why were messages being erased? To this day, that phone has never been recovered or returned. The fight with first responders. When the ambulance finally arrived at 11:14 a.m., things got even worse. Crowd control had completely failed. Traffic was backed up for miles. Drivers were leaving their cars to come look at the scene. 2 paramedics tried to reach AJ, but were blocked by bystanders arguing about who should help lift him. One man screamed, "Don't touch him. His back might be broken." Another shouted, "If we wait, he'll die." The paramedics tried to push through. Jacob lost it again, grabbing one of them by the collar, yelling, "He needs oxygen, not questions." Finally, a woman, clearly the senior medic, stepped in. She ordered everyone back. And then she said something Jacob would never forget. "He's still awake, but barely. If we don't move him now, he won't make it." That's when they lifted him, gently, carefully, and laid him into the van. The man who tried to stop the ambulance. Just as the van was preparing to drive off, a man in a black jacket, unknown, untagged, unrecognized, stepped in front of the ambulance. Hands up, blocking it, screaming something in Yoruba. Video footage shows the medic arguing with him. Jacob tries to shove him aside. The man refuses to move, until another bystander, fed up, throws a plastic bottle at his head. He stumbles. The doors close. The ambulance roars to life and takes off. The man? Gone again. No one got his name. No one knows who he was. But to this day, people online are asking, who were all these people that kept trying to stop the rescue? And more importantly, why? The unmarked SUV. While the crowd swarmed the wreck, one more vehicle showed up. A black SUV with tinted windows. No markings. No sirens. No license plate on the front. It parked just beyond the crowd. 2 men got out, both in jeans. No uniforms. They didn't help. They didn't speak. They simply observed. Watched the ambulance pull away. Watched the police collect statements. Watched Jacob yell into the air, furious, shaking, broken. Then, at 11:22 a.m., they got back into their vehicle and drove off. To this day, no official agency has claimed them. So who were they? The glass that went missing. When investigators returned to the crash site later that afternoon, they expected to find broken glass everywhere. Standard. Expected. But something was off. There was barely any. Almost none. Someone had cleaned the scene. Fast. Too fast. One theory. A bystander had collected the fragments as souvenirs. Another? Someone didn't want forensics to find the real cause of the windshield fracture. Because what if it wasn't the crash that caused the break, but something before it? That question will come up again, and when it does, the answers will be terrifying. The note in the ditch. Just before the cleanup crew arrived, a young boy playing nearby discovered something strange. A folded piece of paper in the drainage ditch, stained with water. He opened it. It had just 2 words, written in shaky black ink. Forgive me. No signature. No address. No explanation. Was it a passenger's final message? Was it AJ's? No one can say, but it's now in police custody. Or at least, that's what they claim. Because that boy, he says the note he gave to police had 4 words. Not 2. He insists the bottom line said. I had no choice. Closing cliffhanger. But the real nightmare began after AJ arrived at the hospital. Because when doctors examined him, they found something no one expected. Not a broken bone. Not internal bleeding. But something lodged in the lining of his jacket. Something small. Something metal. And something that didn't belong there at all. What do you do when the man who was supposed to be the strongest in the room wakes up and doesn't remember who he is? What happens when Anthony Joshua, the fighter, the father, the national icon, whispers a sentence so strange, so disturbing, that even the doctors exchange looks of concern? And what if the secrets he revealed while slipping in and out of consciousness weren't just about the crash? What if they were about why it happened? Because what went on behind the closed doors of that hospital, you won't hear it in any official report. But we did. And what Anthony said left even his brother Jacob questioning everything. The arrival, unconscious but breathing. By the time the ambulance reached the hospital, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, 11:47 a.m., the situation was critical. AJ was still alive, but fading fast. His head was wrapped in gauze, his skin pale, dried blood across his chest and neck. The ER staff rushed him to Trauma Room 2B. No visitors, no cameras, just doctors, nurses, and the unrelenting fear of losing one of the most famous men in the world on their watch. One nurse later said, I didn't believe it was him. He looked like a ghost. But when I saw the tattoo on his shoulder, I froze. Jacob's breakdown in the waiting room. While medics worked to stabilize AJ, Jacob Joshua was pacing in the hospital lobby, hands trembling, voice shaking. He hadn't changed clothes. His shirt was stained with oil, glass dust, and what may have been his brother's blood. Journalists began arriving at the gates. Security was ramped up. Doctors told Jacob to prepare for the worst. He refused. He's a fighter, Jacob said. He's Anthony. He'll pull through. But beneath the bravado, his eyes were screaming. The object in the jacket. When staff removed AJ's clothes to check for fractures and abrasions, something fell from the lining of his inner jacket. A metallic object, roughly the size of a thumb drive. At first, they thought it was a key, but upon closer inspection, it had no engraving, no logo, just 2 engraved digits, 07. The object was confiscated and logged by security, but that log mysteriously vanished 48 hours later. When a senior nurse was asked where it went, she responded, "What object?" AJ's first words, "Where's the box?" At 12:28 p.m., Anthony Joshua opened his eyes. Nurse Gloria, the attending on call, leaned in gently. "Sir Joshua, can you hear me?" AJ blinked, then turned his head slowly and asked, "Where's the box?" Gloria didn't know what he meant. She assumed it was trauma-induced confusion, but he repeated it, louder, this time staring directly at her. "Where is the box?" She asked what kind of box. He didn't answer. He just turned his head to the side and smiled. The hallway conversation that got erased. Around 1:05 p.m., AJ was stabilized. For fluids, painkillers, monitors, Jacob was allowed in. The brothers sat in silence for several minutes. Then, according to a staffer standing outside the door, AJ whispered, "I told them this would happen." Jacob froze. Told who? Anthony didn't answer. He just closed his eyes. Now here's the shocking part. That hallway had a CCTV camera, but the footage from 1 p.m. to 1:18 p.m.? Gone. Erased. When IT reviewed it, all they saw was static. Just during that window. Every other moment of the day recorded perfectly, but not those 18 minutes. The code name on the chart. When AJ was admitted, the hospital used a fake name to protect his identity, Daniel Ocone. But within minutes, someone, an unknown administrator, changed it in the system. Not to Anthony Joshua, not even to John Doe, but to subject 19-0-07. The same 2 digits as the metal object. 07. A data technician flagged it. She was fired the next day. No official explanation. No severance. Just gone. Like the object. Like the footage. AJ's visitor in scrubs. At 2:12 p.m. A man entered the recovery ward wearing medical scrubs. No one recognized him. No one challenged him. He had a badge. Clipboard. Confident walk. He entered AJ's room. Stayed for 7 minutes. Then left. When Nurse Gloria returned, she found AJ asleep, but with tears down his cheeks. She asked what happened. He responded, "He told me I won't remember any of this tomorrow." Who was he? No one knows. Security was asked to pull camera footage of the hallway. Same story. Static. Just static. The dream that felt too real. Later that evening, AJ spoke again. Not to a doctor, but to a janitor. The man, who has since come forward anonymously, said AJ suddenly sat upright and asked him, "Do you dream in real time?" Confused, the janitor replied, "What do you mean?" AJ looked straight at him and said, "Because I saw the crash 3 days ago, in my sleep." He described it in vivid detail. The truck, the road, the scream. Only difference was, in the dream, I died. Robert Joshua arrives and breaks down. AJ's father, Robert, landed in Lagos by 5:30 p.m. When he arrived at the hospital, he pushed past security and stormed into AJ's room. Jacob tried to warn him. He's not himself. But Robert wouldn't listen. Inside, he saw his son, bandaged, bruised, broken. He began crying immediately. AJ looked up, smiled faintly, then said, "It's okay, Dad. You were right." Right about what? No one knows. Because seconds later, he passed out again. And this time, he didn't wake up for hours. The nurse who got suspended. Later that night, Nurse Gloria attempted to take a photo of AJ's chart. Not for clout, but for safety. She was worried the records would disappear. And she was right. The next day, the file was gone from the system. But she never got to keep the photo. Because moments after she took it, 2 men entered the nurse's station, dressed in plain clothes. They demanded her phone. She refused. They threatened her job, so she handed it over. The next day, she was suspended indefinitely for violation of patient confidentiality. But when asked who filed the complaint, no name, no signature, just the same 2 digits, 07. But the most terrifying moment came at 2:37 a.m., long after visiting hours had ended, when AJ, hooked up to IVs, barely able to move, was caught on a motion sensor camera, standing beside his bed, staring at the mirror, murmuring a name, over and over, a name no one on his team recognized. A name that wasn't Nigerian, but was linked to a secret from AJ's past. A secret that could explain why he was really in Nigeria that day. Everyone's talking about how Anthony Joshua survived, but almost no one is talking about the 2 men who didn't. 2 lives gone in seconds. 2 families shattered forever. 2 stories the media skimmed over, too eager to focus on AJ's recovery. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If we ignore who these men were, we miss the full picture. Because one of them had a direct tie to Anthony Joshua's past. And the other? He may have known too much. And if the rumors are true, one of them wasn't even supposed to be in that car. The first victim, Adekunle Kunle Ajayi. Age, 37. Occupation, personal assistant to a rising Lagos-based music executive. Status, front passenger seat, killed on impact. Kunle was smart, loyal, detail-oriented. He wasn't supposed to be on the trip. He was filling in for someone else, someone who called in sick that morning. His job? Assist AJ during his private stop in Ogun State. Nothing more. A favor. He had just gotten engaged. His wedding was in 3 months. But now, his fiancée is a widow before she ever got to say I do. AJ and Kunle had never met before that day. But here's where it gets strange. Despite being a last-minute stand-in, Kunle had already been briefed on AJ's movements by someone outside the team. That's highly unusual. How did Kunle get access to Anthony Joshua's route? Who told him? Why was a civilian given VIP intel? One member of the security detail was furious, saying, "That info doesn't go out unless someone high up signs off on it." This wasn't an accident. It was a leak. Kunle's final call. Something isn't right. According to phone records obtained by local investigators, Kunle made a call at 10:38 a.m., just over 20 minutes before the crash. He called his brother. The conversation lasted 41 seconds. The brother later told police. He said, "I'm in the car with the boxer. Something isn't right." People are acting weird. Then the call cut off. People are acting weird? Who was he talking about? The driver? AJ? The other passengers? No one followed up on the quote. No one included it in the official crash report. But the brother insists. He sounded scared. Not excited. Not starstruck. Scared. And just like that, Kunnel was gone. The second victim, Olealoa Lu Dada. Age, 31. Occupation, childhood friend of Jacob Joshua. Status, rear driver side seat. Died from internal injuries. Lu was practically family. He'd grown up with Jacob. Ate at the Joshua dinner table. Watched AJ rise from obscurity to legend. And he'd always stayed out of the limelight. But Lu had secrets of his own. In university, he studied political science and was briefly linked to a covert student journalist group that exposed government corruption. He stopped after graduation. Or at least, that's what people thought. In the weeks leading up to the crash, Lu had been spotted meeting a controversial figure in Abuja. An ex-boxing official ousted in a major fraud scandal 5 years earlier. Why? That's the mystery. Was Lu investigating something? Did he find out something he shouldn't have? And was that connected in any way to AJ's sudden unannounced trip to Nigeria? Because here's where it gets even darker. Lu's hard drive, erased and gone. Lu had a laptop he never let out of his sight. After the crash, Jacob asked that it be retrieved from Lu's apartment. When they found it, the hard drive had been wiped clean. No photos, no documents, no browser history. Gone. But here's the twist. The drive wasn't formatted. It was magnetically erased, a technique used in military and intelligence agencies to permanently destroy data. Who did that? Who even knew where Lu's apartment was? One family member said, "We went there 12 hours after the crash. Someone had already been there. Why was Lu in the car to begin with? He wasn't staff. He wasn't press. He wasn't a handler or security. So why was Lu in the vehicle?" Here's what Jacob said. He asked if he could ride along. Said he just wanted to spend time with me and AJ before I flew out. But a few hours earlier, Lu told a friend, "I need to show them something. If I don't do it today, I might not get another chance." Show them what? What was he carrying? And if it wasn't with him in the car, where is it now? The autopsy reports that don't match. The coroner's report was short. Too short. Both deaths were ruled as blunt force trauma consistent with high-speed collision. Open and shut. But one nurse leaked a conflicting document to an online forum. It contained the phrase, "Non-crash-related bruising observed on posterior neck and left rib area." In plain terms, bruises that don't match a seatbelt or airbag. Bruises that might suggest struggle or impact before the crash. Officials denied the document's authenticity. But the source? Reliable. Same hospital. Same ER floor. She claimed the pages were shredded the same day she tried to speak up. The memorial that never happened. 2 weeks after the accident, a memorial was planned for Kunnel and Lu. Flyers went out. Press releases were prepared. Then suddenly, it was canceled. No reason given. Kunnel's fiancée wasn't told. Lu's mother was devastated. But the strangest thing? AJ's team never publicly acknowledged the deaths. No tweet. No statement. No tribute. Why? Did his PR team think it would distract from the comeback narrative? Or was someone silencing all talk of the crash's casualties on purpose? Because here's the part no one wants to say out loud. If Lu and Kunnel were silenced, then AJ might not have been the target of the crash. He might have been the bait. Kunnel's notebook and the vanishing page. When Kunnel's belongings were returned to his family, everything seemed intact. Wallet, charger, watch. But his mother noticed something missing. His journal. Kunnel wrote in it every day. Eventually, they found it, folded deep in the duffel bag. But a page had been torn out. The last page. You could see the remnants along the spiral edge, ripped, not cut. On the back cover, one phrase had been scribbled. "They're already watching. If anything happens, look at him." Look at who? Who was Kunnel referring to? AJ? Someone on the trip? Or someone waiting at the other end? We don't know. But that page? Still missing. And just when the families thought they'd buried their sons with dignity, they received an anonymous email. No subject, no signature, just one attachment, a blurry photo. It showed a sixth man standing by the SUV seconds after the crash. And that man, he was holding something metallic in his hand, something that looks a lot like the object found in AJ's jacket. He was the one holding the wheel. The one responsible for every twist, every swerve, every second leading up to the impact. But after the crash, he didn't speak to the media. He didn't show up at the memorials. He didn't even go home. Because the man who drove Anthony Joshua's SUV that day disappeared, gone without a trace. And what he left behind raises more questions than answers. Because this wasn't just a driver. This was someone with a past, a secret, and possibly a motive. Who was the driver? His name, Seyi Banjo. Age, 42. Former private chauffeur for high-level Nigerian politicians. No criminal record. No social media footprint. Recruited by a third-party security firm to chauffeur AJ during his private trip. According to documents, Seyi was not vetted by AJ's usual London-based team. He was hired locally, on short notice. One source inside AJ's camp said, "None of us had worked with Seyi before. He came recommended." That was it. Recommended by who exactly? That's where it gets foggy. Because the security firm listed in the hiring contract? It doesn't exist. Not in Lagos. Not anywhere. A fake company. A fake address. A name on paper, Pinnacle Logistics, and nothing more. So who was Seyi really working for? His behavior before the crash. Passengers in the car say Seyi was quiet. Too quiet. He refused music. Didn't chat. Didn't even greet AJ properly when they met. Just a nod and, "We'll get there soon, sir." Cold. Robotic. Lou, the second victim, whispered to Jacob at one point, "What's up with the driver? He keeps looking in the mirror." That's right. Seyi kept checking the rearview mirror. Not for traffic, but to watch AJ. Again, and again, and again. Almost like he was waiting for something. The dash cam that was disabled. AJ's team insists their SUVs always have dash cams, standard security measure. But when investigators examined the Lexus wreck, no footage, no memory card, no internal logs. The camera had been manually disconnected. Wires snipped. Done before the crash. This wasn't damage from impact. This was intentional. But who did it? Seyi had access to the vehicle the night before. He was the only person with keys. Which means someone may have tampered with the camera to ensure nothing from inside the car could be reviewed later. Someone didn't want the world to see what happened in those final moments. And Seyi had the opportunity. But did he have a reason? The last thing he said. According to Jacob, just seconds before the crash, Seyi mumbled something under his breath. Barely audible. Jacob was in the trailing vehicle, but had the front passenger window cracked, and swears he heard the word. Time. Not slow down. Not brake. Just time. As if it were a signal. Or a countdown. Then came the crash. Then came the screams. And Seyi? He survived. Walked away from the wreck with minor bruises and a limp. He even helped pull AJ from the back seat. But after paramedics took over, he vanished. The police report. Blanks and redactions. When journalists requested the official police report, it was heavily redacted. Entire sections blacked out. And strangely, there was no statement from the driver. No contact information. No ID. Not even confirmation of his name. Just a line that read, "Driver fled the scene before formal questioning." That's not standard procedure. That's not how fatal car accidents are handled, especially involving a global celebrity. So why was Seyi allowed to leave? Did someone help him? And if so, why? Where he was last seen. Witnesses claimed they saw Seyi walking away from the hospital around 1:30 p.m. that afternoon. No ambulance. No police escort. Just walking. Like nothing had happened. A man selling recharge cards near the hospital gate said, "He looked straight through me. Like I wasn't there." Others say he climbed into a black Camry that pulled up near the hospital wall. No license plates. Since then, nothing. Not a single sighting. Not a single phone call. Not even a name listed under missing persons. His apartment, cleared out. When journalists tried to locate Seyi's apartment in Ikoyi, they found a small 2-bedroom flat in a low-rise building. Neighbors said he hadn't been seen since the day before the crash. But here's the kicker. The apartment? Empty. Every drawer. Every closet. Gone. Even the walls were wiped down. As if someone had tried to erase every trace of his existence. One neighbor said, "It was like someone had pressed delete on his life." The passport connection. A whistleblower from Lagos Immigration revealed a shocking detail. Seyi's passport had a departure scan from Murtala Muhammad International Airport, just 9 hours after the crash. A flight to Casablanca. But no arrival scan at the other end. and no CCTV footage of him at the airport. It's like he was booked on the flight, but never boarded. Or worse, someone else used his name to cover a different exit route. The driver filed a DNR 3 days before. This is perhaps the most chilling discovery. Say, on record, filed a do not resuscitate form at a local clinic 3 days before the crash. It's not legally binding outside that facility. But why would a healthy, 42-year-old man with no known illness preemptively request to not be revived? Unless he thought he might not come back from something. Unless he wasn't just a driver. The shocking photo discovered on AJ's recovery room wall. 5 days after the crash, as AJ was recovering in private, his father Robert noticed something pinned to the inside of a hospital cabinet. It was a photo, a printout, slightly torn. It showed a younger AJ, years earlier, with his arm around a man, smiling. The man? Say, but AJ didn't remember him. He looked at the photo for nearly a minute before saying, "That's not possible. I've never met him." But someone had placed the photo there. Someone wanted him to see it. And whoever that was knew AJ might not remember. But just when the trail seemed cold, a tip came in. A man claiming to be Say's cousin sent an encrypted email to an international journalist. No message, just a subject line. It read, "He wasn't driving fast. He was told to drive fast." What do you do when the person you've looked up to your entire life suddenly seems like a stranger? When your own brother wakes up from a near-death experience, and instead of gratitude or relief, he gives you silence and secrets. For Jacob Joshua, this wasn't just about the crash. It was about everything that came after. The coldness, the cryptic whispers, the lies. Because as Anthony Joshua recovered physically, emotionally, he was slipping further and further away. And then came the confrontation. 2 brothers, 1 hospital room, and a truth so raw, it left Jacob reeling. The silence that started it all. In the days following the crash, AJ's room was full of flowers, calls, concerned fans, and, most of all, silence. Jacob visited every day. He sat beside his brother, talked, joked, prayed. But AJ barely responded. No questions about the victims. No memories of the wreck. No thank you for being there. Nothing. Just blank stares. Vague nods. Half-hearted smiles. It hurt. Jacob told a friend. It was like he survived the crash, but the real Anthony didn't. The moment Jacob lost his cool. On day 5, Jacob finally snapped. They were alone in the hospital room. The air was heavy. The TV was playing on mute. Jacob leaned in and said, "You have to tell me what's going on. What happened that day? Why did we go to Magong? Why did you make us switch cars?" AJ looked at him, expressionless. Then, slowly, he replied, "I thought it would be safer that way." Jacob was stunned. Safer for who? AJ didn't answer. He just looked away. And that's when Jacob said it. The line that would cause everything to spiral. "You should have told us this months ago." AJ flinched, then whispered, "I didn't think it would find me here." "Find you? What does that mean?" Jacob was confused and furious. "Find you? Who? What the hell are you talking about?" AJ refused to explain. So Jacob did what he always did when Anthony shut down. He went looking for answers himself. Jacob's private search. Over the next 48 hours, Jacob did his own investigation. He spoke with hotel staff. He reviewed Anthony's security logs. He even got hold of a private investigator, paying out of pocket. And what he uncovered shook him. AJ had made 3 unscheduled visits in the weeks before the crash. One to a remote area outside Ogun State, alone, no escort. One to a boxing gym closed to the public for over a year. One to a man with alleged ties to a long-forgotten betting syndicate scandal. None of these visits were reported to family. None were authorized by his security team. And most disturbing of all 3 were in areas known for high surveillance vulnerability. It was almost as if AJ wanted to be seen, or followed. A whispered confession. Back at the hospital, Jacob confronted Anthony again. He laid out everything he found. And that's when AJ said something chilling. "It wasn't an accident, Jake. But I wasn't the one they wanted." The phone that caused a fight. On day 7, AJ's team delivered a new phone to him. His old one, still missing, was declared irretrievable. But Jacob was suspicious. He asked to see the new phone. AJ refused. Said he needed rest. Later that night, Jacob entered the room when AJ was sleeping and reached for the phone on the bedside tray. AJ woke instantly, grabbed his wrist. Don't. Jacob, shocked. What are you hiding from me? AJ looked away again. You don't want to know. Jacob stepped back. Actually, I think I do. Robert Joshua takes sides. The next day, their father Robert tried to intervene. He urged the brothers to stop fighting and focus on healing. But Jacob couldn't let it go. He told his father everything. Robert listened in silence. And then, to Jacob's shock, he sided with Anthony. Not everything needs to be explained, Jacob. Some things need to stay buried. Jacob was speechless. He could have died. 2 men did die. And you want to sweep it under the rug? Robert, more quietly. I'm protecting both of you. You're not ready for the full story. That sentence haunted Jacob for days. A secret meeting between AJ and a stranger. Security logs showed a visitor entered AJ's room under the alias John Doe. No one knows who he was. He stayed for 22 minutes. When Jacob asked about it, AJ said, he was just checking in. Checking in? On what? AJ refused to say. Later, Jacob reviewed footage from the hallway cam, only to find that, once again, the feed during that 22-minute window was static. Jacob's nightmare. The vision he can't shake. Jacob later revealed that the night after that confrontation, he had a vivid nightmare. He was back in the SUV. The crash was happening again. But this time, he wasn't in the trailing car. He was in the passenger seat. And as the vehicle spun, he looked over and saw AJ, smiling. Calm. Almost like he knew. When Jacob woke up, he was drenched in sweat. He rushed to the hospital, hoping to talk. But AJ was gone. The unannounced discharge. On day 9, Anthony Joshua was quietly discharged from the hospital. No press release. No cameras. His location? Unconfirmed. His recovery? Private. Jacob wasn't told. He arrived that morning with food and found an empty bed. No note. No explanation. Just a nurse who shrugged and said. He checked out early. Said he needed air. That was the last straw. Jacob broke down in the corridor. Witnesses say he screamed so loud, security had to calm him down. He's not telling me the truth. My own brother. I don't even know who he is anymore. But just when Jacob thought he'd never get answers, he got a call from a blocked number. A voice said only one sentence. If you want to know the truth, ask Anthony about Port Harcourt. At what point does a tragedy stop being an accident and start looking like a message? A parked truck. A disappearing driver. A hospital visit with erased footage. 2 dead men. A phone that never turned up. And now, whispers of something hidden in Port Harcourt. This isn't about a car crash anymore. It's about a trail of clues no one was supposed to connect. Because if you really start pulling at the threads, you'll see the whole thing might have been staged. Planned. Executed. Not to kill Anthony Joshua, but to scare him. Or worse, to send a warning. The truck that never should have been there. Let's go back to the scene. The wreck. The cause of it all. That rusty, lopsided truck parked illegally on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway shoulder. According to Nigerian Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, the truck was parked without cones, unattended, missing hazard reflectors, not registered to the company painted on its side. Now here's the kicker. That company, K-Pro Haulage Ltd., hasn't existed for over 4 years. It was dissolved quietly after a series of tax evasion charges. So whose truck was it? And what was it doing there? No driver came forward. No owner filed an insurance claim. And police quietly closed the file. Why? Unless that truck was never supposed to move again. Because it wasn't parked there by mistake. It was placed. The overtake gone wrong, or timed perfectly. Several driving experts analyzed the crash reconstruction from witness videos and vehicle marks. The general consensus? AJ's SUV should have had time to brake and swerve. But it didn't. Because right as the Lexus made the overtake maneuver, a motorcycle cut across its path. That moment forced the driver to veer directly into the truck. And the motorcyclist? Never identified. Never seen again. That single maneuver changed everything. And some believe it was intentional. A coordinated act. A nudged crash. Not a coincidence. A trigger. The truck's tire tracks, a small detail that changes everything. Independent investigators noticed something odd in drone footage taken after the crash. The truck's tires had fresh dirt tracks leading backwards, not forwards, as if it had just been rolled into place, then left. Also, The grass behind the truck was flattened in a pattern suggesting two men had pushed it from the rear, not driven it, which means it wasn't broken down. It was abandoned deliberately. Why? Who benefits from a stalled truck on a high-speed stretch of highway? Right as a global icon's car is passing by. 6 strange deaths on the same road, in the same month. Here's where the pattern emerges. In the 30 days before AJ's crash, 6 other accidents occurred on the same stretch of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Each involved parked trucks, overtaking maneuvers, no driver present, no hazard signage, no legal claim filed. And in 4 of those crashes, the victim was either a politician, a journalist, or a known public figure. Coincidence? Or a pattern? And now, Anthony Joshua is part of it. What Jacob found in Port Harcourt. That call, telling Jacob to ask about Port Harcourt, wasn't a prank. It was a puzzle piece. Jacob flew down, alone, quietly. He met with an old boxing associate of Anthony's, someone who hadn't spoken to the family in years. The man, whose identity remains protected, handed Jacob a flash drive. He came to see me 2 months ago. He knew something was wrong. He just